Well, good morning, everybody. This is Dr. Tom Schlueter with today's Tom's Take. I want to take you back almost a year ago as our congregation, Kingdom Gate, was going into the new Hebrew year, Rosh Hashanah, for 5785. The Lord, as He's done for many, many years, downloaded a word to us that would define the coming year. The word that He gave us was based on Psalm 81, verse 16, in the Passion Translation, but He added some significant words to it. He said, "I have placed you strategically on the high place. I will feed you with my spiritual bread. You will feast and be satisfied with me, feeding on my revelation truth like honey dripping from the cliffs. You will see and you will have the victory." I'm sharing that because this year marks an anniversary for something very significant, not only for Kingdom Gate, but for our network here in Texas, the Texas Apostolic Prayer Network. I shared this with you last Thursday when I was sharing the stories of how God can move and is moving with an infiltrating type of power into governmental structures, especially our own state capital here in Texas, down in Austin. Well, in 2015, January of that year, is when those things that I described on Thursday took place, 10 years ago. And you have to remember that the number 10 is a number of completion. It's a number of testimony. It's a number that represents God bringing some things to completion, just like the number 7 is. But it speaks primarily of, I have completely rendered judgment on a matter. Well, in January of 2015, when we gathered there at the Capitol, you'll recall that I was driving down south from Arlington to Austin with one of my chief intercessors, Christine, and her daughter, Caressa. And Caressa had fallen asleep in the back seat of the truck. I needed to remember that as she was sleeping, the Lord gave her a very powerful dream about this angelic warrior that rose up in the midst of our rotunda and filled up the entire rotunda. He had come out of a swirling mass, which we knew later were a swirling mass of angelic host. As we went into that meeting 10 years ago, we had people there that have many experiences with angels, and many of them know what the names of the angels are. And 2 or 3 of the people all confirmed that the name of the angel was Bold Ruler, a mighty ruler with a scepter in his hand. We also realized that the scepter was also an actual ruler. And if you'll recall, I said that the Lord could be looking at Texas, and if we measured up to what He desired to do in our midst, that we would effect great change and transformation across the nation. I truly believe that's happening. We are seeing that number 10, that strength of something being judged correctly coming to pass. But I wanted to bring you back to that story because Bold Ruler then was placed on posters. We're not worshiping Bold Ruler. We're just acknowledging God said, look, I have taken over the Capitol. That's what He did. He told us, He said, I am going to take up residence here, and I want you to continue to maintain my residence with your prayers and your declarations and with worship and everything else. And we've done that faithfully for these 10 years. Well, why am I bringing it up again today? I thought I just talked about this Thursday. Well, that number 1 intercessor of mine, Christine, went up and left on a trip with really not even any of us knowing that she was doing it, with her daughter, Caressa, and her friend, Jessica. And they went to South Africa. The Lord had been telling Christine for many years that He wanted her to go at some point to Cape Town. And there was a conference there that she wanted to attend. And so they attended it. Well, at that conference, a man by the name of Patrick shared a vision that he had. And I'm going to share a transcription of that vision. He says, "My name is Patrick. I'm from New York. I came here," and that's to Cape Town, "in December of 2024, that would have been last year, for the Roar of All Nations, and did a 7-day fasting." I'm going to cut some of these things out that aren't really necessary. When he came here, the Lord instructed him and his wife to get into separate rooms because he wanted them to be set aside specifically for this fasting time. When they had finished the 7 days of fasting, he went back into his room after being gone, and he saw himself laying on the bed in a vision. And over his chest was a mantle called War Room or War Chest. And then over his belly was another mantle called the Prayer Mantle. So a war mantle and a prayer mantle. And so he literally, in the vision, carried out what he had seen in the vision and laid down in the bed and put those two mantles on his chest. And as he did, 2 angels came into the room. They took him up into a vision, and he was up in the air, up in the clouds. He saw a mighty eagle that was swirling in a circular motion. He was flying as though he took the territory that he was seeing over as his possession. And then as Patrick came out of the clouds, there was a cliff, and on the edge of a cliff, there was a large, massive lion, and he was roaring as though all that he roared over, he too had taken possession of that territory. As he went down from the cliff, he came out to the sea, and there out of the ocean there was a massive authority like a massive angel standing on the water with his sword. And he also declared that he owned the territory. And this angel, the Lord, instructed him to look up. And when he looked up from where he was standing, he saw the authority, the angel, the lion, and the eagle, and they were all in unison. And over the top of all of the others in the territories they claimed that they owned now. And then immediately he was taken up into a vision over the United States. And there were 4 massive angels, one at each corner of the United States, and each were holding in their hands staffs. They were like scepters, and they turned towards each other, and they reached out their scepters over the area, and their scepters came together in the center of the country, and they touched. As soon as they touched the ends of the scepters together, a beam of bright white electric light shot down from out of the heavens from above, where the eagle was flying straight down through those scepters and touched the center of the country. And the angel of the Lord instructed me to look, and when I looked closer, the beam of the light was touching Texas. And from there it shot straight out across the entire country from coast to coast. Well, amen. What a powerful vision. And I'm so happy that something was being revealed here regarding God releasing a beam of light down onto Texas. But that's not the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey would say. The rest of the story was this. Christine and Caressa heard this story being spoken by Patrick. And they said, man, we would love to be able to talk to him. Well, they waited, and they went back to their room to get some rest. Caressa fell asleep again and had another dream, another vision, and it was Bold Ruler again, 10 years later. She woke up startled, and she said to her mom, "That's the angel in his dream." They were hoping to be able to talk to him, but in a large conference with him sitting at the front and them at the back, it was going to be almost impossible. Until they went to a break room, and Christine and her daughter were talking about this, and they turned around, and there was Patrick standing right behind them. And they shared the story with him. And his eyes got wide as well, because the Lord had said that the Lord was going to plan on doing something with him in bringing him to Texas to release the power of this word. Isn't it amazing that God puts us someplace? Sometimes we're not even sure what we're going to be doing there. We knew that we were going to be praying in the Capitol. We knew that it was going to be a small room down on the bottom floor where all the extension offices are for all the legislators and everything. But little did we know that in that room, with those 20 people or so gathered there in January of 2015, that there would be a vision of a mighty angel called Bold Ruler that would be shown to us as evidence that God wanted to use our state to change the nation. We had been receiving that word for many years. It's the same words that Chuck Pierce and Dutch Sheets had spoken over us back in 2003 at the December meeting down in San Antonio. And now it was happening. And then 10 years later, just this last week, Bold Ruler shows up again. And as a final stamp on something, he says, look, remember the word I spoke? I'm going to lift you up high into a strategic place, and you're going to see victory. Well, here we are at that moment, at the end of 5785, when the Lord promised that to us. What an exciting time this is. God is moving upon us. Now, I know I've spoken primarily here of Texas, but you need to understand, if he is doing this with us, he's showing you what he's doing with your state and with this nation, because things are about to change. Now, tomorrow I'm going to share with you about this new month we're heading into, which is very significant for me, but also significant for the carrying out of what the Lord revealed and is revealing through his angel, Bold Ruler. Well, blessings to all of you today. Have a great day in the Lord, and I will be with you again tomorrow.